of the key things about this year's report card is there's clearly increasing awareness of the significant social and economic benefits that the waterways of this region provide. We know that waterways in southeast Queensland are estimated to provide over $5 billion per year to the southeastern Queensland economy through industry, tourism, recreation and fishing. And the latest surveys of the report card this year show that people in southeast Queensland really understand that. They love their waterways, they want to see them protected. The report also shows though that value is not evenly distributed across the region. That residents receive their waterways, the value that they put on them varies from catchment to catchment. In some places, residents value their waterways for their contribution to their livelihoods. In other places, residents value their waterways for rest and recreation. But one thing that's clear across the region is that southeast Queenslanders are united in their desire for their waterways to be protected. So how well are we doing on that front? The 2019 report card really doesn't show a lot of dramatic change in report card grades, but there are some worrying trends in certain indicators in our catchments. We've gone through a particularly dry period, as many of you will know, and that's reflected in some of the freshwater health scores in the upper catchments. In some parts they're in very poor condition, and there's a lot more that needs to be done if we want to maintain the resilience of these highly valued waterways. In particular, the things that live in our freshwater systems in the upper catchments are really been doing it tough during this dry period. And what we've seen is some of the lowest freshwater scores in the upper, mid and lower Brisbane that we've seen on record since monitoring began in 1999. Contrasting that though, there's some really quite exciting news this year to the health of Moreton Bay. And what we've seen is a considerable reduction in the mud plume in Moreton Bay. It's shown a significant reduction in size, and we're seeing evidence for the first time that seagrass in the bay is starting to increase in its coverage. Now this has been a fairly prolonged dry period, and that's brought some respite for Moreton Bay, and that's given enough time for natural processes to flush a lot of the mud that was delivered to the bay as a result of flooding in 2011 and 2013. And as a result of that, what we're seeing in Moreton Bay is better water quality, more seagrass and a healthier ecosystem. And particularly what's pleasing to note is that what we're seeing is the extent of seagrass recovery that's occurring in the western part of the bay. So we've seen significant recovery of seagrass meadows in southern Deception Bay. They were lost entirely in 1996. And in addition to that, we're seeing that seagrass meadows in Bramble Bay, which haven't been seen since the 1950s, are also starting to show signs of recovery. So that's very pleasing news. It's also a reflection, though, of a very prolonged period of investment. Investment in wastewater and nutrient reduction has happened over a long period of time over the last 2 decades. And of course, as I mentioned, the long dry period, which has allowed the bay to recover. And that really does highlight that if we get on top of some of these catchment issues, that the bay will be resilient to these effects and can recover, and these important seagrass beds can regenerate. What it also reflects, though, is that there's a need still for continued action to reduce sediment pollution. The mud plume that was delivered into Moreton Bay is something that's associated with large rainfall events. And if we're going to really see the reduction of that in the longer term, we must continue to make investments in reducing the amount of erosion that occurs in our upper catchments. And it's really pleasing to have here today the Mayor of Lockyer, showing really the evidence of what you can do in the upper catchments of the region, making considerable investments in improving the condition of their waterways, and in doing so, taking pressure off the health of our lower river and Moreton Bay. And it's that kind of investment that's going to be critical into the future. We really need to build the resilience of our waterways and our upper catchments, ultimately reduce the amount of sediment that flows through our waterways, and in doing so improve the ecosystem health of our lower river and the bay. It's not only a significant environmental issue, of course, it's a significant economic issue, reducing the cost of water treatment, loss of water storage in our reservoirs, reducing the cost of dredging in the river. So this is not just an environmental problem. Of course, the other thing the report card reflects this year is it does take time to see the real benefits of management actions, and it highlights, I guess, the significant need for further investment to target sediment pollution, both in our upper catchments and in our in urbanising areas, so we continue to improve resilience to these future events. On that, I'm very happy to release this year's 2019 report card.